Welcome everyone. In section 1, we gave a high-level overview of data analytics and showed you how to start working with Jupyter Notebooks. In this section, we'll show you how to acquire and work with various data sources. In our first video, we'll be working with file formats stored on your local computer, such as simple text files, the CSV and TSV file formats, Excel, and creating your own Google spreadsheet within Colaboratory. We'll be playing with a small toy dataset of sales transactions that record information about employees. Later, we'll expand it to upload tables of customers, products, orders, and suppliers in Excel. For the remainder of this section, we'll go over a structural relational database language that comes natively with Python, called SQLite, and we'll use it with our sales dataset. Now, almost everyone should be familiar with programming and using text files. So we'll quickly review creating an empty text file, then show you how to download, upload, and modify your text through Colaboratory. As you may recall, to create a text file, we'll use the Python open function with the file name followed by the W parameter. In this case, I am going to write example.txt as the name of the file, and we'll be writing into it and name the file object file. Next, we'll provide file.write our text input. In this case, I'm going to write some content before I close the file. Now, the example text file we just created is on a remote virtual machine through Google servers. While we don't need to worry about the specifics of the setup, it's important to note that the memory we're using is temporary. Since this is not a reliable long-term storage space, we should try to download it to our local computer for safekeeping. To do so, we'll need to install Google Colab's Files library and call the download function to retrieve our example text file. Here, I'll show you an example. From google.colab import files. And then we'll call files.download with example.txt that we just created on Colab's memory. Okay, so what if we have a local file that we want to upload? The file object has a function called files.upload. So let's see how we could use it to upload our text file. Since we already have the files library imported, we could just make an uploaded file object. Now, uploaded is actually very similar to a dictionary. And so we could actually see the contents uploaded to see not only the names of the files that we have, but also what the contents are. Here, I'll show you an example. So once we call the function, it's going to request for us to choose the files from our directories. As we can see, I already have the example text file downloaded. So let's just click on it and we'll see information provided on our notebook. As mentioned earlier, upload is really just kind of a dictionary for us to acquire our information, but it can also help us to actually look at what's inside. As you can see, the key is the example.txt that we just created, and it actually stores the raw information of the text that we see. Okay, let's append the file to add additional content using the A parameter. So again, we'll open the example.txt file, and we'll use A to append. This time I'm going to write some additional content. And as always, we should close our file when we are done. Alright, now that we created the file, let's make sure that the file has been properly modified. So again, we'll need to reopen it. This time using the read parameter. As expected, we have modified the content to not only have some content, but in addition, it has appended some additional content to our file. Awesome. Now that we've done a quick review of text files, let's quickly review the CSV and TSV file formats. A TSV is simply a formatted text file to represent columns and rows of structured data. Columns of data are separated by commas, hence the name comma-separated values, and each row is determined by delimiter, such as a new line tag. As with regular text files, we could upload and display its raw content from the upload dictionary. Just as a quick reminder, we could use the files library like so. We're also going to import a library called pandas, mentioned in a little bit. Alright, let's see the raw contents of this file. As you can see, the columns of the data are separated by the commas, and each row is separated by a \r\n. And just like with a regular text file, we could call the read function to properly display the info. So with open, I'm going to call sales-employee.csv. In this case, we're just going to read it and call the object file. As you might have noticed, the read method is formatted, but still hard to follow since the columns are a bit shifted. We'll jump a little ahead and show you a nice tool to display tables in a polished way with DataFrames using the pandas library. A data frame is a data structure that resembles something like a spreadsheet that we could use to index and query based on columns and rows of data. We'll go over pandas in more detail in the next section, but for now we'll just show you how to convert your files into a data frame object to more easily view your dataset. Using pandas.read CSV function. To acquire and properly format the file, I'm going to call the IO string in-memory text string and provide it the upload file name key, ensure that's decoded using the FT8 text protocol. Here, I'll give you an example. As you may recall, the uploaded object is really just a dictionary that stores our text file information. And we're using the UTF-8 protocol to make sure that the file is properly parsed and interpreted by the data frame. A link will be provided at the end of the lesson in case you need to review IO streams. Awesome. So now that we have our data frame uploaded, we could see the table nicely formatted. This will come in handy later on when we're trying to do data analytics later on in section 3. The TSV file format is very similar to CSV with one noticeable difference. Instead of using commas, the TSV file format uses the \tab delimiter to separate columns of data. Let's upload the TSV file just like we have done for text and CSV files. Again, let's see the contents of the file. Now, loading a TSV file is very similar to using CSV. Again, we'll call the read CSV function, but since the text has tab delimiters, we need to provide it the sep equals tab parameter to let it know how to properly parse and interpret the data. Here, I'll show you how. So as we see, pretty much the CSV and TSV are pretty similar in format, but we need to add one additional parameter. This lets the function know that we are separating by a tab delimiter. Now let's go ahead and display the results. Just like CSV and TSV files, Panda also supports the ability to read in Excel files. But we'll need to install the XLRD Python package to make sure Python can properly extract the data. Because XLRD is not native to Colaboratory, we'll need to pip install it. Now that we have XLRD installed, let's upload our Excel file. Instead of using Panda's read CSV method, we'll instead be using read Excel, and should act the same way in order to extract the contents of our data. This time we're going to provide it the sheet number since we actually have several different sheets in one Excel file. Okay, well, because we've been using Google Colabs, what if we want to use Google Drive and Google Spreadsheets? To do so, we'll need to give Colabs permission to access our Google Drive using the following lines of code. When the code is generated for the first time in Colabs, it will provide a link and prompt you for your verification code. Click it and give Colabs the code to grant access towards your Google Drive. Alright, to create a Google spreadsheet, we'll need to initialize a new file and its associated sheet. Instead of copying our original data, what if we want to add content to our new spreadsheet after we conducted an experiment? In this case, we'll need to select the rows and columns to enter just like we would if we're using Excel. For this toy example, I'm just going to go ahead and insert some random numbers into our file as a demo. And just like with our previous examples, we can upload our data into a Pandas data frame. But this time we're going to use the from records method. Great job, everyone! In this video, we briefly walked through some common file formats to load and acquire our data.